Good morning, grade 9s, and welcome back to Quarantine English with Mr. Fouché. Today we'll be doing activity 9, which is on page 165, and it continues to page 166 as well. So you can open up your textbooks over here so we can complete this activity together. I've got some good news for you guys. We are not going to do number 3 in this activity. So we'll only be doing questions 1, 2, and 4. 3 focuses on reported speech. I would like to use this activity as an example for when I talk about the common errors you guys made in that assessment I sent out, if you remember, which was also about reported speech. I think it was task 2. So by the next video, we might be talking about reported speech again and talking about the common mistakes you guys made. Okay, so let's get started with this activity. It's not a very lengthy one. Especially since I'm going to ask you not to write out full sentences where required, except for number 2, there's questions. But at question 4, you can just write down the correct form of the word in brackets. You do not need to write out the entire sentence. Otherwise, you writing that out will take too long, and I'll be giving you answers constantly. So, let's get started with question number 1. And here they ask us, just open up the textbook there. Okay, they ask the following. We've got, give the comparative and superlative degrees of the following words. And then they give us all of these adjectives. So, here, we've got degrees of comparison. You've probably heard of this before. Now, degrees of comparison has 3 stages. They are called positive, the comparative, and the superlative forms. Okay, let's get started with positive first. It's our first step, the first degree, so to speak. And it is basically just a word that gives you more information about a noun in particular. So imagine a chair. It is a very effective chair. So I'm describing something else about the chair. It is perhaps there are many chairs. So it's not just the one chair, many chairs. Perhaps it's a very popular chair. Everyone wants to sit on that chair. Okay, so these words just give more information about a certain noun. Now we get on to the comparative form. This is when you are comparing two things, which is the second degree, of course. So here, we might have 2 chairs, and the one is more effective than the other. So you are comparing 2 things. And the last one is called the superlative form. This one is when you have a collection of certain things, and you want to say which of those things is to the highest degree, or is best, so to speak. Perhaps it's not best specifically, since best is also a superlative term. But yes, it's something that is to the most excess, so to speak. So let's do all of these and you might see things more clearly. So first, we are going to change the positive form to the comparative form, which is our second degree. So effective is something I can use as an example for this. A general rule of thumb is when a word has 3 syllables or more, just add more or most. So effective becomes more effective. Just add an ellipse there. And then we've got most, which is obviously my superlative form. So positive form, effective. Comparative form, more effective. Superlative form, most effective. I hope that makes sense. It's not always the case. There are sometimes words like quickly, we'll get to that, where it's not 3 syllables, but you can still use more and most. You can also use less and least. So that one is less effective. That is also comparative form. So you can use less there as well, and least if you wanted to. Now, the second form of many, so the comparative form of many is more. And then if you want to take it even further, I hope you guys are doing this ahead of time, so I'm not giving you the answers and you're just writing it down. But how can I control that anyway? So many becomes more and more becomes most. Okay, now we can continue on to popular. I hear 3 syllables there, so my job just got a lot easier. I just add more or less plus my word. And if I wanted to take it to the superlative form, I add most plus my word. So more popular, most popular. Now we get on to good. Good is one that changes in a very irregular way. You don't just add more or most, and you don't just add ER or EST. This one completely changes as you change it throughout the degrees. So if something is good, that's good. But what if something is more good? Then you call it, I hope you know this one, you probably learned it in grade 2, it's better. And remember, we've got 2 T's in better. Now, if I want to change it even further than that, I can use the word best. And there we go, good, better, best. Now, we get to quickly, which is quite an interesting one. It can take 2 routes to become, or to move up in the degrees. Probably the one that people use more often is quicker and quickest. I see these 2 more commonly than the others, but you can also use more quickly and most quickly. It all depends on the context of your sentence that you are writing. So you can use quicker and quickest, but you can also add more quickly and most quickly. Let's continue on to F, which is easy. Play on words, I hope you saw that. So we've got easy, which becomes easier. And in the end, we've got easiest. There we go. Easy becomes easier, which becomes easiest. Now, warm, quite a straightforward one. This is probably the more general rule. So if you don't know what's going on with your words, and you don't know how to change it, this is usually the type of change you're going to find. You're going to add an ER for your comparative form and an EST for the superlative form. So that is your general way of changing your adjectives, or the positive form at least. So now we get close, which is our last one, and we've got a change which becomes closer, and then we've got closest. Again, you will see that there is an ER and an EST, but because my positive form ends on an E, I don't add another E. Okay, so that E just stays the same there. It just gets the R at the end. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I hope you've got that under control. Now we can do question number 2, which is all about questions. And there we go. So question number 2, which is on page 166, you will see they ask you to change the following statements into questions. Statements are just bits of information in a sentence form, so to speak, and then you have to change them into questions, starting with the words between brackets. So they tell us how to start our sentences, which is very nice of them. Now, to A and goes all the way to E. So it's A, B, E, O, and E. Okay, and they tell us what to start with. The first one is. Now, in this sentence, and I'll quickly write it down here to the side, it's the most general way of changing a statement into a question. They can actually ask this one without telling you what to start the sentence with, and you will still be able to do it. So, in this sentence, we've got Henry is a clever boy. So, we've got Henry is a clever boy. A very easy sentence there. So whenever you find something as plain as this, just look for the auxiliary verb. If you find it, which there it is, just move it to the front of your sentence and then write the rest of those words in its order and add a question mark. Very important. People tend to leave them out and you lose the mark. So here the answer would be, is Henry a clever boy? Question mark. Is Henry a clever boy? Okay, I hope that's not too confusing. It's quite straightforward. So you just look for the auxiliary verb and you start your sentence with that. But as we know, this activity is slightly different. They tell us what to start with. And we are getting these question words, as they are referred to, and we can quickly explain how to answer or how to write down a question using them. So B is our next sentence. It's Mr. Khumalo will be the key speaker at the meeting, and we have to start with who. Now these words are words like who, when, what, how, when, all of these. When you find them, ask yourself the question, what information is that word looking for? And then you read your sentence. If you can find the information in that sentence, make sure you do not write it down in your question. Otherwise, what you are doing is you are answering your question while asking the question, which sounds very dumb because it kind of is. So, let me explain. Here we've got Mr. Khumalo will be the key speaker at the meeting. Okay, so here we cannot add Mr. Khumalo because this word is trying to figure out who. Okay, so I can't give you the answer. Here, your question would be as follows. I'm not going to write this all down, it would take ages. So, who will be the key speaker at the meeting? Question mark. Who will be the key speaker at the meeting? Question mark. As you can see in my question, no Mr. Khumalo, otherwise, already explained it, your question becomes redundant. Now we get on to C, next one, there we go. The question reads like this, with a sentence. The grade 10s put on a most entertaining play last week, and I start with when. Now, again, I ask myself the question, what is this word looking for? It's looking for a time. So let's see if anything indicates time in the sentence. The grade 10s put on a most entertaining play last week. So last week cannot be in my question. Okay, so let's read that answer. When did the grade 10s put on a most entertaining play? Question mark. That is correct. That would be perfect. You would get full marks for that. Now, a very common mistake is people saying the following. When did the grade 10s put on a most entertaining play last week? Question mark. If you do that, I already explained it. I'm not going to go through that again. So, let's get on to D. They all wrote covering letters to accompany their applications. And I'm looking for what? Okay, so what is what I'm starting with. This one can be used quite in a variety of ways. So let's see what we are looking for. In this case, we are going to see if we can find a noun. So something tangible that I can look at in this sentence. So we've got, they all wrote covering letters. Covering letters are physical things. That can be a what. So that is what we're going to focus on. So they all wrote covering letters to accompany their applications. That little bit at the end accompanies the covering letters, so I can't add that in my sentence either. So the answer is actually quite short. Well, the question, if you catch my drift. So how, no wait, we are at D, it's what did they all write? What did they all write? And obviously the question mark at the end. Please do not forget that. Okay, now the last one to do for the questions is E. He lifted the heavy desk with great difficulty, and they ask us how. How tends to ask you how a verb is influenced. So the general rule of thumb, if you see this, try and look for a verb. If you find a verb, see if something is describing it. That needs to be omitted. Okay. So here we've got, he lifted the great desk, the heavy desk, with great difficulty. Lifted is my verb. Is anything adding to this word? Yes, with great difficulty. Okay, so it was difficult to accomplish this verb. So with great difficulty needs to be cut out, and it is, how did he lift the heavy desk? Question mark. How did he lift the heavy desk? Question mark. Okay, quite straightforward. Now we can do question 3, which is going to be really quick. In this question, we are given sentences, and the verbs are not written in the correct form. They actually use lots of passive writing here, so we are always going to add an auxiliary verb to help the main verb. Okay, So we've got 4. How many do we have? We've got A to D. So it's A, B, C, and D. You guys at home, you do not need to write out these sentences. Even if I told you to, I'm pretty sure most of you would just jump over it anyway. But here we go. You only have to write down the words in brackets in their correct form. So we've got, give the correct form of the words in brackets. Before her CV finalized for the post Molly wanted to apply for, she had researched it very well. So here the word is finalize. And here we are looking at, first of all, the amount of my subject before her CV, just one CV. So I'm going to use was, because that indicates singular. So, was finalized. Finalized. There we go. And as you can see, because it's passive, I know this word needs to be in its third participle form. Okay, so if this was think, okay, so let's say was thought of, okay, that's the third participle form of think. Let's use one that has 3, give. He was given, okay, not gave, because given is the third participle form. So just try and remember that as we go through these. That's the difference between passive, of course, third participle form. Let's continue on to B. So we've got the testimonials had been certified before the application hand in. Okay, so the application is what we are referring to here, and it is being influenced by hand. So hand, as the verb, needs to be in the correct form. First of all, singular. So, was. There we go, very simple. Was, hand. And this needs to be in the third participle form, which is just handed. Okay, was handed in. Now we get to C. This one will take a little bit of thinking because we've got a basic knowledge of secretarial skills required for that post. Now here most people are going to write, let's say it's going to be present tense here, so it's is or are. So let's say here most people are going to see skills and they'll write down are. Okay, so are required. Remember, third participle form, and you're going to notice that, yes, this is incorrect, because a basic knowledge of secretarial skills is my entire subject. But what am I talking about? I'm not talking about the skills. That's not the focus. The true focus is knowledge, and there's only one knowledge, which means are changes to is. Okay? This takes us back to our subject-verb agreement lesson. Here you have to make sure what your subject is. Is it singular or is it plural? Let's do D, and then we are done. Courses on computer skills present regularly. So here we are talking about the verb present. So courses, that is plural. So I need to use something that will help the plural form of this subject. So are presented. Are presented. Okay, are is used because it's plural. And that is all we are going to do for today, grade 9s. So again, no homework, you can just look out for your next task, and that is it for this lesson. I hope you guys stay safe and see you next time.